Howdy YouTube, and welcome to this episode of Gunman. So today I'm going to be doing a review and demonstration on the DeVilbiss GPi. It's no stranger to the channel. It's featured in quite a few of my videos over the years, and I have actually already done a review and demonstration on this. However, it's a little bit outdated. It's a few years old now, probably 3 or 4 years old. And I had someone leave a comment on that review recently, and he said, oh, you know, this gun's no good for clear coat, blah blah blah, you know, it's a bad gun and all that. And I hadn't been using this gun very much lately, so it put a little bit of doubt in my mind. I thought, is he right? Is it that bad of a gun? Does it put too much material on, you know, because the tip options that you get with this is 1.4, 1.6 and 1.8. So, you know, for base coats and clear coats, you'd be going with the 1.4, obviously. You wouldn't want 1.8, and the 1.6 is just a bit of a funny tip size. It's sort of an in-betweener, something that I'd only really use on very rare occasions. I actually did use it for acrylic clear coat, and it seemed to handle the acrylic clear okay. But yeah, my verdict on this gun, after revisiting it for clear coat for a couple of weeks now, I've used it on most jobs for about 2 weeks. The first time I did use it for clear coat, I was doing this Volkswagen Tiguan. I actually didn't record the footage. I wasn't even recording it. I just was in a bit of a hurry and the car had to go, so I just cleared it up, and I had the fluid wound right out, which is what I had been using it for direct gloss 2K VOC. And yeah, wound right out. Was a touch too much because it is a 1.4. It probably just pumped a little bit too much fluid on. So if you do want to run it full fluid, maybe just be a little bit careful. Maybe move a little bit faster than what you may usually be used to if you're running a 1.3. However, that 1.4 will just have no dramas at all with the thicker clears. So if you're using, say, a HS or a low VOC clear coat, you may even want to run it at full fluid. The clear coat I'm using here and the clear coat we use at my workplace is the Standox Standard Clear. It's a bit of a funny clear coat. It's not HS, but it's not MS. Like, this is even coming from the paint rep himself. I was talking to him about 3 or so weeks ago. I said, what's the go with that clear, man? Like, it feels like an MS. It's as thin as an MS, it feels like to me, but it uses a VOC hardener in it, so it's a funny one. And he said to me, it's a hybrid clear, and I said, well, that makes sense, because I've never heard of a non-VOC product using a VOC hardener in it. But yeah, all of that aside, it is a touch on the thinner side. It sort of sprays like an MS clear because it is a little bit thinner, but it's obviously just one step above MS. But yeah, as I say, you know, with the 1.4, it's probably a little bit too much. You can obviously compensate for that by speeding up or winding the fluid in, which is exactly what I did on this job here. So for those of you who don't know, Mitsubishis are similar to Mazdas. They really don't put much material on. They actually do leave a very nice sort of a glassy, a tight peel to it, so a tight finish. Not big, thick and chunky as you would expect from, say, the European vehicles, like the European the car finishes on their cars have got a very thick, chunky orange peel. It's actually it's a finish that I find a little bit trickier to get with this kind of a clear coat. So if you are going for those European style finishes, you are actually better off using a HS or a low VOC clear. However, we don't have it here. We don't use it at this shop, so I've just got to do what I can with the clear coat that I've got. But yeah, just wind that fluid in a bit. As I say, if you are using a thinner clear, if you're using a thicker clear, open it right up and just go hard. So as you can see here, that finish is pretty consistent with the rest of the vehicle. That's exactly what the Mitsubishi finish looks like. So more than capable of replicating the tighter finishes or the flatter finishes, yet it can go the other side, and it can use the HS clears at full fluid, no worries at all. And if you hang around for a minute or two here, we're going to be using the same gun for Standox 2K direct gloss low VOC. And yeah, I've been using this gun for low VOC for a while now, on and off. You know, I'm pretty spoiled for choice when it does come to spray guns. I've got a lot of good quality spray guns there, and yeah, sometimes I'll just be like, you know what, I want to use the GPi, or next day I'll just be like, hey, I want to use my Segola, or the next day I might just use the FLG5. But yeah, this gun here now is spraying the non-sanding primer, and it sprays that really well too. As you can see, it's nice and fast. It doesn't leave you with too much overspray. Another thing I would actually like to quickly mention is I used this gun yesterday for clear coat on a Mercedes-Benz, like a brand new GLI Mercedes-Benz or GLC or something like that. Sprayed both sides of it, and it used not a drop more than my Pro Light. So it is very efficient spray gun. As you can see here, it's got a nice sized fan on it, not too big, not too small, and it really does pump a lot of material on because it does have a 1.4, but as I did say before, you are a little bit more restricted than say if you wanted to go with your Pro Lights. I think with your Pro Light you can even go right down to 1.1. 1.1 is a tip I've never used on my Pro Lights, but I think you do actually have the option to go 1.1 on your Pro Light. So yeah, if you do decide to get this gun, you'll just have to get your 1.4 and then maybe wind the fluid in a little bit if you find it is a little bit too much. Another thing I'd like to mention is it might look a little bit familiar to DeVilbiss sprayers because the base of the gun looks exactly the same as a DeVilbiss GPi Pro. Like, it must have been made in the exact same mold, and then they've obviously just changed the fluid tips a little bit and the air cap too. So just so that you guys know, you actually, well, you can, but you can't. You can put Pro and Pro Light air caps on there, but they don't spray properly for some reason. I've found the fan is like really small on it. If you go and put, say, a TE10 or T110 air cap on it, TE20, any of those air caps on it, they just don't spray right. I think it's to do with the diameter of the hole around the fluid tip and the air cap. It's just a little bit off. So I think they've probably deliberately done that so that you can't just get yourself effectively a Pro Light for nearly half the price. So these guns now have actually started to creep up in price a little bit. I remember doing my first review on these. Now, come to think of it, it's possibly because of the exchange rate changing. So again, I did get this gun from Spray Guns Direct, and I do remember like 3 or 4 years ago when I did do the initial review, they were under $300 Australian, but now they're 350 Australian dollars. So in American dollars, it's probably around about 300 American dollars, which I think is good value. It's definitely good value for what you get. Like, this is a top quality spray gun and capable of top quality results. And that's another thing I was actually thinking to myself. Like, I was looking at my spray gun collection and I was thinking, if I wasn't the gunman and I had to and I had no spray guns, let's just say I left the trade for a few years, I came back in and I didn't have loads of money to go and spend on spray guns, what would I get? If I had to get myself a primer gun, a color gun, a clear gun, all of that, let's just say the budget would say $1,200. Now, before I 100% answer this, I would have to revisit this thing for base coat, and I'm going to do that soon. And I must admit, I haven't actually used this thing for base coat for a while, but next week I'm going to be using it for base coat and see what I think of it. But I would get probably 2 of these, one for base coat, one for clear coat. I would probably get a FLG5 for a helper gun, what I call a helper gun in 1.4. So if you're doing a 3-stage peel, you'd say use your FLG5 for your ground coat, then you'd use the GPi for your pearl coat, and then you'd have a dedicated one for clear coat. And then I would probably get another FLG5 for primer. So I'd probably get 4 guns to get myself back into the business. Come to think of it, I would need a minigun too. I'd get myself a ANI R150 minigun as well. But yeah, look, you'd get yourself a good little setup, a good, enough to do any sort of job that you need in a smash repair environment. 4 or 5 spray guns for around $1,200. I know people that spend $1,200 on one gun. Personally, I think that's a bit much for a spray gun. For what you get out of it, it's too much. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you get there, it's where you get, It doesn't matter what gun was in your hand when you got that finished that looked exactly the same as the rest of the car to keep the owner happy and your boss happy and keep you in a job. Does it really matter what was in your hand, or if it had a really snazzy graphic on the side, or if it was a limited edition? No, it didn't. It's the end result that counts, and at the end of the day, quality does matter. You don't want to go and buy yourself a gun that's too cheap and isn't going to last, but this does tick all the boxes for me. with all that aside, I hope you guys have enjoyed and learnt something from watching this video, and if you did, drop a like down below, leave a comment. If you are a fellow GPi user, let us know your thoughts on it, if you use it, if you get lots of use out of it. I know a few people have got them for primer and various applications they use them for. Anyway, until next time, get out there and paint some shit. Gunman out.